I've finished welding up the pivot for the jig. This is it here. It slides into a housing here. I think I said before that I've got different height settings to work out where the actual pivot point is. So there's 3 settings. At the moment it's just sitting in there loose, so I can rise this up, put a bolt through there and it will hold. These clamps here are just to clamp the tube in place while it's being mounted. So the result has been quite good at this stage. I'm pretty sure they'll hold up. I'm making up the stands for the rotisserie. This is one of the stands I've started to work on. It will have casters on each end, caster on the front here, and a provision for a bar to go through to the rear. So that's still to be completed. There'll be a post on here as well to house the female version of this that this will slide into. So I've got a bit of work to do yet, but at this stage these 2 posts have been done, and there you can see the 3 positional holes there. So I'm quite happy the way it's coming up at this stage, so I'll just press on. My rotisserie stand is now complete. This is just one of them. I've done both of them. I've got casters on each end, a little short balance point here with a caster there. This bit here is where I bolt on the joining bar, which is this one here. That should join the two ends. I've got a join in the middle there. Why? The only reason is that I couldn't transport a beam that length in the car, so I had to cut it. So I've welded that in place. That should be strong enough. The post is set so I've got hopefully the right clearance when it's all in balance. This post here, of course, is adjustable. Now, I did think about the idea of putting a jack in there, but really I've spent enough time on it already, and to put a jack in there would be, I guess, a bit of a frill. It's not really necessary. I won't really be putting the car up and down frequently. So having said that, I actually do have 2 heights. I've got the height which will give me a full clearance, and I've got a lower height so I can put a pin in here, and if I really need to at some stage I can drop the car down. Won't be able to rotate it, but I can either leave it inverted or stand it up the right way so I can actually perhaps work on the roof area. Now here's the front end in situ. At this stage I've just got the pipes engaged. On the end here, I've got a little collar here that I can bolt in place, so it will stop the movement of the pipe in and out. So that basically locks the mechanism together. So combined with that lock and the beam which will go under the car, that will stop the ends from spreading. Now I'm hoping it's strong enough. My welds aren't pretty, but I'm fairly certain they'll hold. The thing is really ready to try and put on. Oh, the other thing is that this stand actually doesn't stand completely vertical. It's a little bit tilted to the rear. Now, some of that is taken up by the slop in the tubes, but I didn't put it completely vertical because when you put the weight of the car on it would tend to to pull inwards. Now I've noticed that certainly car stands are angled back a little bit, so is this. So anyway, whether it was necessary or not I don't know, but it will, with the weight of the car, it will gradually pull towards the vertical. Anyway, having said that, it still fits through the pipe even though it's a little bit out, because there's clearance between all of the pipes and clearance between these tubes and so on. So at this stage I'll put the other end in and start to bolt it up, and then I'll lift the whole thing up. I'm going to set this initially at its central adjustment point, and hopefully that will give me the balance, and we'll see how it all works out. Now I've finished my rotisserie, car's all mounted up, just to show you what's involved. The jig was positioned up under the body. It's quite a heavy jig. You can lift it on your own, but I wouldn't want to carry it too far, so I got my son to help me bring it into the garage, because I made it outside of course, and slid it under the car, and then on my own I was able to jack it up under the car and mount it. Now I think I've said before, my jig doesn't actually sit directly on the body, even though it looks like it is. This 40mm square section here sits between the jig and the supporting structure under the floor here. This is where the engine frame goes in. So I can actually pull that out. It's just sitting in place. It makes sure that the body is actually the right distance from the jig all the way along. So it's just sitting in there. So I can push that out to work on it and put it in to either mount the car and leave it there in its normal position, or also to put it there so I can slide the new floor in and get it to the right height. So it's sitting on the jig, it's all mounted up. The front support frame, as I've said before, bolts above the engine frame mounts, so the engine frame can actually be mounted around this support. So the reason I did that of course was so I can fit the engine frame on and line up the required mounting points. This panel I'm replacing, and of course the other side I'm definitely replacing. So it'll allow me to align the new panels. The rotisserie stand itself, obviously two components. There's this pivot post here, which has 3 adjustable points in terms of its pivot height. Now when I first put it up, I put it on the central positioning point. It turned out to be bottom heavy, so I've actually put it to the lowest point on the jig. Now the way I measure my pivot points is that the center line of the pivot has 3 possible heights on this jig. It's either 340mm above the top face of the jig, and the center point is 300mm, and the other point is 260mm above that. Now I actually I started off at 300mm, that was bottom heavy, and I've put it to 260mm. Now having said it's 260mm above the jig, bear in mind that there's 40mm spacer in here, so in terms of its position above the supporting structure of the floor, it is 220 mil up. So that's its pivot point. On the rotisserie stand itself, I've got two adjustable heights on that. The turning height, which it's set at now, is 1 metre 85 millimetres, and that's to the centre. So I have to have it that height so I can actually turn the car and clear the connecting bar there. You can see how the connecting bar is positioned. I've got a little caster wheel here, but it's positioned as low as I can put it, so it's quite low down. The clearance is I don't know, probably 20 mil when the car turns. The closest part of the body to that bar when it turns is actually the roof line. Now, to get the jig to the right position, to the turning position, I mentioned I wasn't going to put a jacking system in. It wasn't really necessary. I was able to position the jack across the bars there and put it up into the front of this section here and gradually jack it up. So it wasn't hard. I was able to do all of that on my own. In fact, I was able to mount it on this post on its own. Not as hard as it seems, because if you can support the jig on stands, all of this comes out. You connect all of this section here out of the rotisserie stand, and then you just slide it down into the slots there. I've got pins to lock it in position, and these are just lock nuts to stop any movement there. The same arrangement is on the post here. Now the car does turn nicely. It's in pretty good balance, and I'll just show you how that turns. You can turn it one hand, two hands. It's not hard to turn. It's in balance. Bear in mind this is a coupe. The balance point would be different if it was a roadster. So I'll just put this on my tripod, and I'll show you how it turns. And there's probably going to be a little bit of sound when I turn it. Most of that is the rubbish falling out of the car as it turns around. I haven't cleaned the car out at this stage. That's really the next process. I'll be going through, and as I've started on the front here, cleaning all the metal off, and not only the outside, but I'll go through the inside and clean all of this sealant and everything out of the joins, and all of this rubberized, just come around here, all the coatings and rubbish and here's all got to come off, so that'll take quite some time. Alright, turning the jig, it's not difficult. As I say, it's quite well balanced. You can hear the rubbish falling out there. Doesn't need much pressure at all to turn it. I have pins either end that I can slide into the top there, which will lock this in position. And the other thing that I'll be doing is that I'll be putting a vice grip in here, or actually onto that, which will stop any slight movement. So I can do that. Oh, by the way, this little collar here is bolted on the end, so there's no way this can slide out. Not that it can anyway, because it's got the, hopefully it's got the bar between them, but it will stop any of this from coming apart. As I say, this is just holding itself. I don't need to pin it really in any position, it'll hold. But as I say, just a little vice grip there, it'll keep it reasonably firm. There's the car fully inverted. So, good working height to work on the floor, which is where a lot of the damage is, on the bottom end. So, it's working out quite well. I'm very pleased. It's certainly worth the time you spend on making it. Just the rotisserie ends, the rotisserie component, all of this, took me 45 hours. So all up over 100 hours to make all of this, so you can actually start to work on the car. I actually find it quite interesting. I've already started to clean up some of the parts of the car, particularly inside, and in this position you can actually stand inside the car, just walking through the windscreen with your feet out through the door hole. You can actually do a lot of work standing up, which is a lot easier than trying to sit in the car and working over your head, or trying to get under the dash. You know, seeing I have no floors, I can actually go straight in the side here, and I can clean under the dash, which is good, and clean all that metal out. What I'll be doing next is to all the bits of paint. I'll be going around the car and cleaning the metal off. Now I'm doing all of that manually. I know some people get the cars dipped, others will have it soda blasted or some form of blasting process. I don't normally do that. There might be some bits I might get blasted, but by and large I usually clean things off manually. So it's a long process, it's a hard process, but as someone said somewhere that when you clean it off manually, you actually get to know every little nook and cranny of the car, and you can identify any faults that need to be addressed as you go around. Now I suppose you can do that when it's been bead blasted, but this way I actually find things that I wouldn't have known that existed. Some of those things might be small dents in the panels. You know, I found some dents in here, in this side, which I didn't know were there. So they'll need to be addressed. There's little small rust holes in various places. There's one down in here in the corner which I need to address. And when I was cleaning off the bulkhead here, I found that there was rust along here which needs to be addressed. Now I was looking on the video built by many, and there was a comment that it's a good idea to take this panel off, and the reason is to get in behind there and remove any surface rust and seal it up. I thought that was a great idea. Not many people do that as far as I'm aware, but now not only is it a good idea, but I'll be doing it to actually address the rust over here. So that's got to be done. And what I think I've said before, I actually keep a record of things I find. I've got a book here where I identify any faults to be rectified. I'll continue to do that as I go around the car and clean it off. So this stage, all of this rotisserie is done. A lot of welding, a lot of cutting, a lot of work, but certainly very much worth it. I don't regret the time spent. Anyway, that's where it's at this stage.